Hey, Grace Church, Pastor Jonathan here. We're in the middle of our At the Movies series, and so we can't show that content online, but we wanted to make sure to provide you with some great content that would be a blessing to you this week. And so I chose to share a message today called Anchored in Strength that Pastor Kendrick did in February this year. And the reason why I chose it is because he does a phenomenal job of talking about how all of us in our lives, we face trials and pain and hardships, things that we go through. And he talks about how we respond to those trials and those times, how that's so important for us and for our future. And I think it's a timely message that we can hear now and just about any time in our future. So I hope this message is a blessing to you. Get your notes, get a pen, and get ready to hear from God.
Hey, we're in this series called Anchored. I'm just going to dive right in. How many of y'all, have you ever seen that Christian art where you can put like a Bible verse on your wall or a pillow or something, you know? Let me give you a couple thoughts of what you'll never see on Christian art, okay? For example, let's say in the mirror in the morning, you want to get a little morning inspiration, you know? Okay, you probably won't put this on there. In this world, you will have tribulation. Just start your day off right and pick me up, you know? How about a pillow like this? Consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds. You know, that would just warm the heart a little bit, wouldn't it? Or a little 3x5 card to memorize. But rejoice insofar as you share Christ's sufferings. You might be able to suffer even more today with Christ. You can meditate that. And one more. Here's just something you put on your wall. Don't be surprised at the fiery ordeal that has come upon you to test you, as though some strange thing were happening to you. Okay, now, let me just say this. It's kind of humorous, but we all face struggles, don't we? We all face difficulties, trials, and though joking, we'd never put that on a pillow or on our mirror in the morning. In this world, you will have tribulation, Jesus said, but actually these verses do bring a measure of comfort. Like right after that, Jesus said, but take courage, for I've overcome the world. And actually, the fact that we should not be surprised at the fiery ordeal among us leads us to realize that we all kind of go through it. And there's a comfort in that. And so we all go through it. And today what I want to talk about a little bit is this. How do we experience strength in our struggles? How do we experience the Lord in our dark, difficult seasons? And I believe this, how we respond when we go through the difficult times determines a lot about our future, our significance, the doors that open. Like in the valley, in the darkness, there's often a fork in the road. And you can go down one path, and you all felt this in your challenges. You felt this, like you go, well, if I go down this path, it's going to be dark. I could become a bitter, angry person. Or I could get better. I could forgive. I could either get isolated, or I could get more connected to people. I could either get more humble, or I could get more proud. I could either get more hard, or I could get more soft in my heart. You see, when we go through it, there are some things that God wants us to experience. And what I want to talk about this is, how do you get anchored in strength? How do you find strength in your struggles? Because I know what is common to all of us is in this world you will have tribulation. So today I'm not talking to some of us, I'm talking to all of us. We all have tribulations, trials, difficulties, challenges, struggles. But how do we find strength, and how do we get anchored in strength? And what I want to do is I want to start and launch from a story from the life of David, King David in the Old Testament. You may be familiar with this story. You might not. It's kind of a not as well-known story. David is a quite famous character from the Old Testament. You know, he was tended sheep and wrote a bunch of our Psalms that we have in the Bible. He was a songwriter. He was a musician. He got very close to the Lord, like grew in faith, kind of out tending sheep, which, by the way, is a really cool thing, is that when nobody was looking, it's who he was. He had a relationship with the Lord that went deep. Now, one day, that deep relationship with the Lord showed up in his courage to take on this Philistine giant by the name of Goliath. And where the whole nation cowered in fear, he rose up and says, I'll take him on, let's go. And his trust wasn't in himself. He didn't even have a plan, but he, took on Goliath, slayed Goliath, and honestly, instantly became a national hero. He served King Saul in his army, became one of his generals. He'd kind of come in and out, and And there was just a favor on David's life. Like whatever David touched kind of turned to gold. So he won all these battles. And what happened was this, they actually came up with a song. It was like top 40 hits or something, where they'd sing this song that Saul has slain his thousands, but David his 10,000s. And the problem was King Saul became jealous. And that jealousy he had in his valley of insecurity, there was a fork in the road, and he chose to go down the path of bitterness and insecurity and jealousy. And it actually took root and grew to rage, where he literally threw a spear at David to try to kill him and chased after him. And David had to run for his life, like for reals. He runs to some priests at Nob and hangs with them, takes off with them, goes to the Philistines. He goes to Achish, who's the king of the Philistines, and he pretends that he's crazy. He's like, well, this guy lost it, So they weren't threatened by him, Anyway, he ends up going to some different places. And as he's out kind of running cave to cave in the wilderness, this is kind of cool, who he was, his gift from God, didn't change. And let me tell you this, when you go through it, nobody can steal God's gifts and God's calling over your life. Nobody can take that away. And even David in this dark time, he was a leader. People loved him. There was a favor on his life. So 1 Samuel 22 says that, I love this, there's 3 Ds. Those that were in distress, those that were in debt, and those that were discontented all showed up and started following David. These men who were kind of the fringe, who were like, this is not kind of your cream of your crop Ivy League troops, This is like the people that didn't have anywhere else to go. They go, we like that dude. We're following him. And his little band grew to 400 men, and then it grew to 600, and then their wives and children. And David is running, fleeing now, and feeling responsible for now 600 men, and they're fleeing from cave to cave and place to place, and their families. And he keeps kind of getting away, but he realizes, like, this isn't always going to work. And we pick up the story. This is what he says. He goes, now, he said in his heart, I know I shall perish one day by the hand of Saul. There's nothing better for me than I should escape to the land of the Philistines. He's like, we've got 600 people, and Saul had hired 3,000 men, special forces, to chase after David. Kind of a math guy, I go, that's 5 to 1. Not great odds, okay? 5 to 1. And so he's like, one day, the 3,000 are going to find us and show up, and it's going to be lights out. One day we're going to perish. We can't just keep escaping. So he says this, I should escape to the land of the Philistines. Then Saul will despair of seeking me any longer within the borders of Israel and shall escape out of his hand. Because they were fleeing in Israel. He goes, I got an idea. Let's just go over to the Philistine. One thing I do know is Saul's a chicken and he's afraid of the Philistines. The one place we can be safe is if we hide with the Philistines, which is like going to the enemy camp. So they do that. David arose and went over. He and the 600 men who were with him, Achish, the son of Mach, the king of Gath. And so that's, they went to Achish. And David lived with Achish in Gath. He and his men, every man with his household. And David with his 2 wives, Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail of Carmel, Nabal's wife. And so David's plan worked, okay. It says this, when it was told Saul that David had fled to Gath, he no longer sought after him. And so again, David's plan worked great. And so now he ends up spending 1 year and 4 months in Gath with the Philistines, okay. And in that time, 2 things happened. One, Achish gave him the city of Ziklag. And so David and his 600 men and their families kind of started living in this Philistine city of Ziklag. And meanwhile, David started fighting with and for the Philistines. He'd fight against the enemies that were attacking the Philistines. And he really earned favor with Achish. Like Achish go, this guy's awesome, because David would fight with him and for him. And he made a bunch of enemies that way too, okay? So 1 Samuel 28, this is where the plot thickens a little bit, gets interesting. What happens is the Philistines, Achish, decides to attack Israel. and they gather together to attack David's people, okay? And then Saul gets afraid and freaks out and wasn't doing great. So he goes to this medium, the spiritist, to seek wisdom. Not the best move, okay? And then in 1 Samuel 29, the Philistines actually start marching towards Israel. And they got the Philistine armies in the front. And what you do is you put the king in the back. So Achish is in the back with David and his 600 men. Now, these Philistine leaders, they're pretty sharp, okay? So they're like marching towards the Israelites to fight the Israelites. And they realize this David dude and his 600 men are pretty legit, okay? And they're also Israelites. And they're like, hey, Achish, we're going against the Israelites. We've got 600 of the biggest, baddest Israelites right behind us. No way. And Achish was like, hey, dude, trust him. He's like, David's the guy, man. He won't turn us. And they said, get him out of here. He's out of here. Like, we do not want David and his 600 men with him as we go into battle with the Israelites. So that's kind of how David got off the hook for having to fight his own people. But anyway, so David goes, okay, I'm going to head back to Ziklag. Y'all go ahead and go fight. I'll head back to Ziklag, to the hometown. That's where their wives and their children were. And they had a 3-day journey back there. Now remember, meanwhile, David had made some enemies along the way because he'd been fighting with and for the Philistines to protect them. So we pick up in 1 Samuel 30, when David and his men came to Ziklag on the 3rd day, the Amalekites had made a raid against the Negeb and against Ziklag, and they had overcome Ziklag and burned it with fire. Now, I think it's good to slow down a minute and kind of like put yourself in the shoes of David and his men. I mean, I don't know the topography. I don't know if they came around a corner, if they came up over a hill, but at some point, they all of a sudden they come up over the hill or came around the corner, something, and they could see Ziklag, and maybe even before that, they could see the smoke billowing up. And their town, I mean, can you imagine? I mean, y'all just like, you come back from a day at work, and all of a sudden your whole neighborhood is like, all you see is smoke? That's a problem. And they had taken captive the women and all who were in it, both small and great. They killed no one, but carried them off and went their way. No one's there. No one's killed, but they carried them off and went their way. Now, when David and his men came to this city, they found it burned with fire, and their wives and sons and daughters were taken captive. Now, I think this is kind of fascinating. Now, the writer can say, and none of the wives and children were killed, okay, because they know the story. The writer does. But when David showed up, they just found the city burned, and they found their wives and children captive and gone. And that's usually not a good thing in those days, in those situations, okay? That's a problem, okay? And so they were all gone. They were all not there, okay? Now, next verse says this. Then David and the people who were with him raised their voices and wept until they had no more strength to weep. At first, I'm sure they were just shocked. And then they were like, the reality set in that their homes were burned, they lost everything, and their wives and their children were taken captive by some really bad people who could do to them whatever they wanted. And they just wept and wept and wept. And this is interesting that this got put in there because I don't think it would need to be. But it says David's 2 wives had also been taken captive, Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel, which is interesting because, of course, that's true. I think that got put in to the story to say, hey, this is personal for David. It mentions his wives by name. Like, I think David felt 2 things. One, he felt personal grief and loss that his wife and children were gone. And secondly, he also felt responsible. He felt responsible for all the men. Like, he's their leader. And now, like, that's pretty traumatic. And he's supposed to be responsible. He's supposed to take care of them. And the men who love him, who trust him, who've been following him, okay? That's really bad. And then, if all that's not bad enough, look at the next verse. And David was greatly distressed, For the people spoke of stoning him because all the people were bitter in soul, each for his sons and daughters. So after they got through that season of sorrow, they started to struggle. They started to try to think through what's wrong and why did this happen. And sometimes when you start asking, why did this happen? You try to connect the dots. And they said, well, let's just blame David. And they spoke of stoning him. So y'all check this out. Saul's hired 3,000 men to try to kill him. He's running for his life. He's got his little band who's in his corner at least. Now his home is burned down and the whole village. His wife and children are gone, taken captive by the bad guys. And now the very last people that he still has left in his corner, his mighty men, have turned on him and are speaking about stoning him. That's a bad day. That's a bad day at work. That's not a good day at work. It really is a bad day. Okay, now, check this out. I love this. But David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. David had an anchor of strength. Somehow, David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. Now, I love this. It doesn't just say David strengthened himself in the Lord. That would be good. I think it says this. David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. Which I mean, I think it's drawing to the fact that the God that he had worshiped with the lion and the bear when he was a shepherd, the God that had been with him when he challenged Goliath, the God that had been like his God, he drew from his history with God, sometimes I like to say his secret life with God when nobody was looking. He had a real relationship with the Lord. And that's what, and again, this is just kind of like, I believe by God's grace there's going to be DVR in heaven. I'll be like, okay, just, Lord, give me the remote. I want to go back. I want to watch this. How did he do that? I don't know for sure. And the question is, how do we strengthen ourselves in the Lord our God? In our trouble, in our difficulty, in our pain. Now, what I want to share out of today is I want to share out of someone's pain. I want to share out of someone's tragedy. And that person is Rick Warren. Some of you may know Rick Warren. He's, quite famous, wrote The Purpose-Driven Life. What you may or may not know is Rick Warren went through one of the most difficult tragedies that you can experience. And his son, who struggled with mental health, committed suicide. And he and his wife, Kay, went through a very dark, painful, difficult season. And they had to wrestle and find strength in their tragedy, in their pain, in their difficulty. And out of that, he came up with what I'm about to share with you. And I don't know about y'all, but when I hear someone who went through pain, tragedy, difficulty, and they've got something out of that, you kind of lean in and go, I'm listening. And what I want to do is share this little framework of processing and finding strength in our troubles, in our trials, in our difficulties. And I want to add some biblical thoughts to it. I want to add some personal story to it. And I'm going to talk through 6 stages of how we find strength in our struggle. And in that, this is why I just want to pray for you as I share this outline a little bit with you. This is what I'm hoping and praying for every single person, everybody at Alma that's listening. This is what I'm praying for you is that you'd have a little ding aha moment where this is what might be true, is there might be some place at work where you've been through a real struggle and you might be like, hey, I'm on stage 6, praise God. I see that's going on. And you may have another area of your life where like in your family or with one of your kids where you go, I'm on stage 4. And so more than likely, there's different trials and difficulties and challenges that we face in different aspects of our life. And more than likely, you're at different places in different areas of your life. And what I'm praying today is that God would kind of speak to your heart and that we'd all get an application. Because in each of these stages, we're going to talk about what can go wrong and what step we could take that could go right. And maybe what God has for us in each of these stages as we find strength in our difficulties. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a brief overview of where we're headed. I'm going to give you all 6, not keep you in suspense. And then we're going to talk through all 6. So don't feel like you have to write it out down right away, but if you want to, feel free. But otherwise, we're going to go through all 6. Here they are. Here's the first one. Shock. I can't believe this is happening. When David and his men showed up, I can tell you what they experienced was shock. I can't believe this is happening, that our town, that Ziklag was burned. Here's the second thing we experience is sorrow. I can't believe this is happening to me. And they wept until they had no strength left in them. There was sorrow, sadness. I can't believe this is happening to me. Thirdly, then you transition to struggle. I don't know if I'm going to make it. You start asking questions. Why did this happen? And that's when they came up with, they were bitter in soul and wanted to, in their struggle, turn it against David. Number 4, then, is surrender. I can't do this on my own anymore. It's a healthy step. Number 5, sanctification. God is teaching me something through this. And then number 6, service. I'm able to help others because of what I went through. Let's look at the first one, shock. I can't believe this is happening to me. Listen, when life gets difficult, when there's a tragedy, when there's a tough news, when your marriage melts down, when your children is struggling, whatever. For me, I tell you where my mind goes is back to the appointment I had at Duke with my neurologist when I had a 15-minute appointment. I came in with my 5 questions. I was literally just about to walk out the door. See ya. She says, Kendrick, I need a minute. I need to share some news with you. You have cancer. And I was like, nah. I mean, literally, I was like, nah. Like, no one in my family has cancer. I don't have, like, there's no way. Like, I was in shock. I literally, like, didn't believe it, couldn't believe it. And praise God, she said, well, let me show you some imaging, because that was very helpful, because I don't know if I would have believed her. I'm like, dang. I'm like, look at that. It looks like I swallowed a tennis ball. It's stuck in my neck, you know. I'll have to get that tennis ball out of there. Well, it wasn't a tennis ball. Okay. And the 15 minutes turned into an hour and a half, and then maybe 2 hours later, I was giving blood before I left. And I remember I just couldn't, I was just in shock. And as I was giving blood, I think finally it realized this is happening. I just broke down, just like, I was alone with this woman who was drawing my blood, and it just took a while. And when you're in shock, when you get news, here's what we can do that's not healthy, is what we can do is isolate, and we can end up not wanting, we can be embarrassed, we can be ashamed, we can run from God or run from people and not want to let anybody in. I'm just going to, and the temptation is to get isolated because we don't like it, and we're hurting, and we're embarrassed, or overwhelmed, and we can just isolate. Now, Ecclesiastes says 2 are better than 1, because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. You see, what we need when we fall down, we need someone there. We got to let somebody in. So what are we going to do? What step are we going to? We're going to talk to God and talk to a friend. We're going to talk to God and talk to a friend. That we're not going to just isolate. We're not going to be embarrassed. We got to let somebody in. We got to talk to God and talk to a friend. And for me, I remember after giving blood and I'm walking out to my truck, and I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I need to tell Nana, and should I tell her when I get home, or should I call her? And I thought, well, if it was me, I'd want to call me right away. Don't wait till you get home. Like, I want to know right now. So I said, okay, when I get to my truck, I'm going to call her. And I walked out to my truck, got in my truck, grabbed my phone, closed the door, and I set my phone down. I said, hey, Lord, before I talk to Nana, I want to talk to you. And I just want to tell you that I love you, and I'm good, and I'm going to honor you, and I'm going to serve you. I don't know how this thing's going to work out, but I'm going to walk it with you, and honor you. And I was just like, started crying again, you know. And then my phone rings, and women have this incredible like intuition. She goes, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "You're good," you know. And no, I'm not actually, you know. Talk to God, talk to a friend. You'll find spiritual strength and get anchored in strength when you let someone in. Don't go it alone. Don't go it alone. If I can just nicely, as your pastor, lovingly tell you, you just can't win so many spiritual battles you're just not meant to fight alone. You need to talk to God, and you need to talk to a friend. And God uses that strength when you let God in and you let a person in. Now, here's the second stage is, stage 2 is sorrow. I can't believe this is happening to me. After the initial shock kind of wears off, then your mind starts running with some of the implications and thoughts and what ifs and what, oh my goodness, and you know, my marriage is melting down, and what's going to happen at Christmas, and this situation, and how's this going to disrupt, and I lost my job, and how am I going to pay the mortgage and make ends meet, and the pain, and when you go through a hard season, you feel the loss and the pain, and it's sad, it's sad, it's sad. I remember for me, one time I was, during this process, you know, you're trying to be tough or whatever, and I was trying to aerate my lawn, which maybe wasn't the best move, but anyway, this big machine I had rented, and I went to push it, and one of the levers, you know, it wasn't the handle, but the levers you're supposed to move. Anyway, it snapped forward, and my face went wham right into the bar, and it chipped one of my teeth. And in that moment, it was like, it didn't hurt, but it was like all the emotion all of a sudden just snapped in a floodgate of like, I just said, I'm so sad, I'm so sad, I'm so sad. And I knew in that moment, it was like one of the better like vents with breakdowns. Like I could just feel the Lord there. You know, the Bible says this, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. God is the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all of our afflictions. And let me tell you this, sometimes we don't allow ourselves to feel sorrow and sadness because we're trying to be tough, because we don't want to sort through it all, because we don't want to feel the negative feelings. Let me tell you this, you can't get comforted by God if you don't feel the sorrow. Does that make sense? Right? That you can't get comfort if you don't weep. You can't get comfort if you don't get real with, this is sad, this stinks, I don't like this. I'm bummed out about this, and I had these plans and they fell through, or I was hoping this would happen, and all of a sudden it fell apart. And sometimes maybe as Christians, we don't think it's spiritual to be sad, or we're just trying to be tough, or we don't want to let people see that we're weak or that we're going through it or whatever. But let me encourage you that Jesus understands what you're feeling. He gets it. And it's healthy to be able to experience it. This is what this says about Jesus in Isaiah 53, verse 3. Jesus, it said, he is despised and rejected of men. Okay, check that out. Jesus is despised, not liked by people, and got rejected by people. If you've ever been rejected, if you've ever been like someone didn't like you and it kind of bothered you, okay, Jesus knows what you're feeling. He's a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. He understands what you're feeling. So God, it's healthy to feel that. Now, that's healthy. Now, what is not healthy? How can we go off the wrong way, okay? Going off the wrong way is this. You can ask, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? And where we have to be careful when we're feeling sad and we're mourning, which is super healthy and good, the place where it can turn south, head in the wrong direction, is self-pity. And going, this isn't fair. I don't deserve this. Why is this happening to me? The other way we can do it is not, I don't deserve this, but the other way we can answer is say, I do deserve this. And we can beat ourselves up as if we did something wrong, and we think we deserve it. Let me tell you this, by God's grace, I could feel the potential of heading down that dark trail of asking, and this is kind of what the Lord put on my heart because I could feel it coming, is I got determined, I'm not going to ask why me, and I'm not going to ask why. I'm not going to ask why did I get cancer. Well, with your eating habits and and you could have been exercising more, and and there's 52 reasons why, if you'd just done this better, you would. Actually, someone came to Jesus and said, hey, why did the Tower of Siloam fall on these people? Was it their sin or the sin of their fathers? And Jesus is like, y'all don't get it. You're asking why did this happen, and it's not healthy and not leading to a good place. Now, I believe in learning and growing through what we go through, but let me just nicely encourage you, 2 dark places to go. You want to be careful of how you ask why and why me, because it can lead to self-pity and self-condemnation. It can lead to beating yourself up, and it can lead to and blaming yourself, and it can also lead to, oh, poor me, I don't deserve this. And what I realize is God never promised me 85, 90 years of health. Like every day is a gift. Every day is a gift. And so what can we do? What is healthy? See, both why and why me, both the self-pity and the self-condemnation is turning inward and looking at why is this happening to me? And what we can do is this is counterintuitive, is worship. Is lift up our eyes and look to God. And not look inward, but look upward. And say, God, you're good. And I trust you. And I'm going to worship you. And in our sorrow, in our pain, we can worship. Psalm 61 verse 1 says, hear my cry, O God. Attend to my prayer. From the ends of the earth I'll cry to you. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. Lift up your eyes. Where does your help come from? My help comes from the Lord. And sometimes we've got to lift up our eyes and look to the Lord and worship. Get your eyes off yourself and get your eyes on the Lord. And it can be so healing and so healthy in that place of sorrow. Here's the third stage, is struggle. I don't know if I'm going to make it. Initially you have shock, and then you have sorrow, and maybe God comforts you, and there's like this good season of things kind of going well. But a little further down the road, we often start really struggling and going, I don't know if I'm going to make it. Because this wasn't a day, this wasn't a week, this turned out to be longer than I expected. A year ago, my wife Nana broke her leg skiing, downhill skiing, at the top of her tibia plateau. She ended up needing a plate, 7 screws. It was pretty serious surgery, and couldn't put any weight on her leg. She had to be in a wheelchair or crutches for 3 months. And honestly, my wife is the toughest person I know. I mean, she is tough cookie. And she's brave, and she was courageous, and she was full of strength and faith. But it was interesting when the weeks turned into months and summer turned into spring. It's funny what catches up with you. And for her, when the sun came out and the grass turned green and her garden started, and she couldn't do her garden, it's funny, like she started struggling. I don't know if I can make it. I'm so sad. And she started like really struggling internally, like, I've been tough for these weeks, for a couple months, but I'm wearing down. I don't know if I can make it. And let me just tell you this again, Jesus understands if you're in that place. You may be at stage 3 with really struggling and going, I don't know if I can make it. And Jesus actually said on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? Sometimes what we feel is like God's forsaken us. You go, this is too big. This is too much. I don't know if I can make it. And it can feel like it's too much. It can feel like you don't have what it takes to get through it. And let me tell you the truth. It is too much, and you don't have what it takes to get through it by yourself. And that's actually exactly what Paul said. Paul talked about all the crazy things that I won't tell you, but all this stuff happened. He goes, it was so bad, we didn't think we were going to make it. He said, we despaired of life itself. Apostle Paul wrote 13 letters of the New Testament. Woohoo, man of God. Got to a place that he goes, we despaired of life itself. We didn't think we were going to make it. And he said, this happened that we might not trust in ourselves, but in God. God allowed it to happen. God allowed it to happen in order that we would, here's our step, acknowledge our weakness. He goes, Paul said this, we got to a place that we had to acknowledge we don't have the strength. My strength isn't enough. My wisdom is not enough. My strategy is not enough. My networks are not enough. My resources are not, I can't get out of this on my own. Which then leads to this next step of surrender. I can't do this on my own anymore. I can't do this. The weakness, you get to this place of weakness and you go, I can't do this on my own anymore. Now I need to surrender. You reach your breaking point. You finally go, hey, here's the transition point. I can't do it on my own anymore. Lord, I give it to you. I got to trust. I got to trust your timing. I got to trust your strength. I got to trust your plan. I got to trust your wisdom. That surrender is when we give up doing it on our own. We give up control. We give up our agenda. Everything that we're sort of so tightly hanging on to, trying to make it happen. You go, okay, Lord, I'm out of strength. Here you go. You take it. You take it. I trust you. Proverbs says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. So what we tend to do is lean on our own understanding. I can figure this out. I got this. And in all of our ways, we tend to go our own way instead of submitting to him. And you say, hey, don't figure it out on yourself. Don't go your own way. Follow him. Submit to him. Say yes to his plan. Say yes to his timing. Say yes to what he has for you. And here's our step. We're going to trust God. We're going to trust God. We're going to trust God. Now, here's a question for you. Maybe you've been thinking about a situation or two in your life, a struggle, a trial, a tribulation. Here's a question to ask. What would it look like for you to surrender and trust God in that area? What would it look like in that area where you've been thinking like, I've been going through it? And let me just say this. Often trust is not just an internal attitude, it's an external action step that it is an internal decision. I'm going to trust God. But often, if you ask yourself the question, what would it look like for me to surrender and trust God with my kids? What would it look like for me to surrender and trust God with my future? What would it look like for me to surrender and trust God with my career or the promotion I want or the job I want? Or what would it look like for me to surrender and trust God? Often, it's visible. And God may put something on your heart where you go, ding, I got it. I got to let go. Ding, I got it. I got to trust him. Ding, I got it. I'm going to take that step. Now, here's the next step then. Step 5, stage 5, sanctification. God is teaching me something. After we surrender, say, Lord, I trust you. Sanctification is just a Bible word that means that God changes us and works in us and we become more like Christ. And let me tell you this is where God is teaching me something. John Maxwell is a great leadership guru. He does a leadership lunch once a month with some leader that is ahead of him that he can learn from. I go, like, you're the guru. That's pretty impressive. If John Maxwell is doing a leadership lunch once a month, and he's got 7 questions he asks each person. One of the questions he asks every month to some person that he wants to learn from is, what is the greatest lesson that you've learned in life? Like of all the lessons, of all the things you've learned, what's the greatest lesson? And you know what's fascinating? Here's the insight that he got, is not one person has ever said, you know, the greatest lesson I got was that day when we won the Super Bowl. Was the day when I got promoted. You know, the greatest lesson I learned was on my wedding day, when I had my first. Here's the point. It wasn't on the mountaintop. He said every single time. And this would be true for you. If I asked you, we sat down, went out for lunch today, hung out. Hey, tell me about your life, your relationship with the Lord. What's some things God taught you? What's the greatest lesson God's ever taught you? More than likely, what you would say is, well, you know, I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. The hardest season I ever went through was, but God taught me to trust him. God taught. And God is never the source of evil or injustice or wrong. But God works all things together for good. And God can teach us something. Mark Batterson says it this way. I like this. He says, don't be so quick to get out of the tough times that you don't get anything out of them. Don't try to get out of them that you don't get something out of it. And I go, I like that. If I'm going through a tough time, I'd like to come out on top. I'd like to come out with something, right? I'd like to, and that's really what Paul says here. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or danger or sword or cancer or divorce or sickness or your child struggling or your job loss or whatever is that going to separate you from the love of Christ? He goes, listen, for your sake, God, we are being killed all day long or regarded as sheep to be slaughtered. He says, no. In all these things, we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. I love that. No, it will not separate me from the love of Christ. And I want to encourage you, some faith to rise up in your heart that when you're looking at your situation, at your pain, and maybe you've been there for months, maybe it's been for years, maybe it's a real area of struggle, you go, you know what? No, I will not be separated from the love of Christ. I'm going to be more than a conqueror through God who loves me. He loves me and nothing will separate me from his love. He's working in me. He's working through me. No, I'm not going down that dark path. I'm not going down that path of self-pity. I'm not going down that path of beating myself up. I'm going to trust God. I'm going to be more than a conqueror. Now, how do you conquer a trial, a tribulation, a difficulty, a challenge? You conquer it by getting through it. Praise God. That's good. Because you might feel like, I don't know if I can get through it. You conquer it by getting through it. What does this say? We are more than conquerors. How do you be more than a conqueror? Like, I think conquering is pretty good. I believe this. You're more than a conqueror when you get through your trial, your tribulation, your difficulty, and you don't just get through it, you grow through it. You get better. God blesses you. You're stronger. Your walk with the Lord is deeper. You're closer to your kids. You're closer in your marriage. You're stronger in your spiritual life. You go, well, Pastor, it was painful. It was the worst thing ever. My marriage fell apart. We got divorced. We didn't live happily ever after. I lost my mom. I lost in that situation. Let me tell you this. You can grow and get better with the Lord when you have an eternal perspective. And God's like, hey, I'm going to grow you. I'm going to help you. We can grow and get better. What are we going to do? We're going to grow. We're going to grow. That's our step. We're going to grow. We're not going to just get through it and conquer. We're going to grow. We're going to get better. We're going to be changed. God's going to bless you. And I wish for you, as your pastor, it's like with my own kids, I wish I could just resolve all pain and difficulty. I wish I could, over my 5 kids and their wives, and no difficulty, no pain. I wish I could do that. No struggle. It doesn't work that way. And I wish I could do that for you. But I do believe this, is that nothing can separate you from the love of Christ. And that you can be more than a conqueror. And as you surrender, as you trust God, he can actually work in you. And then here's the last thing, is service. I'm able to help others because of what I went through. That not only do I get through it, not only do I grow through it, but I'm actually able to help somebody else. God redeems. I love that word, God redeems. We don't use that word a lot, but he takes that which is broken and he makes it beautiful. He takes that which is hurting and he makes it healing and helpful and life-giving. Listen to Isaiah. He says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He's anointed me to play good news. He sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, okay? To proclaim the year of the Lord's favor, the day of vengeance of our God. But let me say this, God has vengeance. You know who he has vengeance on? Your enemies. The things that try to knock you down. Sometimes we read that, oh no, is God vengeful? Is he mad at me? No. He's not mad at you. He likes you. Nothing can separate you from his love. Anyway, quick little side note there. We're rooting out all of that legalism and all that. Anyway, all right. To comfort all those who mourn. Check this out. To provide for those who grieve, there it is, mourning. Bestow upon them a crown of beauty instead of ashes. He's going to take ashes. That thing burned to a heap. It burned down. He's going to make it beautiful. He's going to give you an oil of joy instead of mourning. Where you were sad, he's going to give you joy. A garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. They will be called oaks of righteousness, the planting of the Lord to display his glory. Let me give you one interesting one that's on the same idea that you wouldn't have, very kind of unique thing from the New Testament. Check this out. You go, what does this have to do with anything, Pastor? Let me show you in just a second. Anyone who's been stealing must steal no longer, but rather, don't quit stealing, but rather must work doing something useful with their own hands, that they may have something to share with those in need. Check, this is how God works. He goes, I'm going to heal you, forgive you, change you. You're not only going to not do that, you're going to work. You're not only going to not steal, you're going to work. And not only are you going to work to provide for yourself, you're going to have something to share with those who are in need. Let me tell you that sixth thing, like when you've gone through the struggle, the trial, part of the healing is, now I'm going to help you. And you reach back and you pull someone else up and you bring them along and you help them. And maybe you've gotten to a healthy place or gotten through it. And part of the full cycle is that you do that which is in the positive, not just not doing the negative. It's part of the cycle of healing and health. And maybe God's called you to do that. Listen, I hope, and my prayer today is this, is that God would somehow give you an application in your heart and life of something where you go, ding, Pastor, I got it. I know in this area, again, I might be struggling to surrender. Maybe I've really been inward and I've been asking why and why me. And I've been in self-pity or I've been in self-condemnation, kind of beating myself up. And maybe today I need to put a stake in the ground and say, I'm going to worship. I'm going to lift up my eyes. I'm not going to ask why or why me. I'm not going to beat myself up and I'm not going to feel sorry for myself. I'm going to trust God. And maybe you do need to trust. Maybe you go like, I'm still wearing down. I'm still trying to do it in my own strength. Maybe you realize I've been trying to fix this in my own strength. Wouldn't it be amazing if today was a day you said, I'm done. I'm done. I can't do it alone. If I'm honest with you, I've been trying to do it alone. I've been trying to do it in my own strength. I've been trying to do it in my own wisdom. I need to give up, turn over control, and trust God. Wherever you're at, I know God wants to help you take a healthy step, and that he would use some of our pain and our difficulty and trials, that you would find strength in your struggle and take that next step. May I pray with you and for you? Everyone in Alamance will want to pray for you. Father, we thank you today. We can take a moment to we're taking just a moment here. Shut out the world. Shut out our thoughts. Take a moment to pause and to talk to God, to be open, to be honest, to be real with God about our pain, maybe about our sorrow, about our frustration, about a situation, about a relationship, about the past. Maybe we're right in the middle of it. Maybe we're still carrying something from a couple of years ago. I don't know. But Lord, we bring it to you. And I pray today that maybe, Lord, where we've been in self-pity or we've been in self-condemnation, we've been beating ourselves up or feeling sorry for ourselves, Lord, we want to give that to you today. We want to give that to you. Where we've been hurt and angry, we don't want to go down the dark path of a root of bitterness taking hold and consuming our heart and our life. We forgive. We want to let it go today, Lord. Lord, where maybe we've been struggling, trying to do it on our own, maybe we just need to say today, I give up. I don't want to do it on my own anymore. In fact, you might be here today, and God might have brought you here today in order to hear this message and know that you're called to surrender your life to Christ. You believed in God in your head, but you need to make a decision to surrender your life, your heart, and truly live for God. Because if you were honest, you'd say, I haven't really lived for God. When no one's looking, God hasn't been first. I mean, I believe in God, but I haven't said, I surrender all to Jesus. Take my life, take my future, take my pain, take my sin, take my failure, take it all. Come into my life, Jesus. I want to live for you. I receive your love. I receive your forgiveness. I receive Christ in me, the hope of glory. Lord, give us wisdom to take steps in order that we would have strength in our struggles. In Jesus' name, amen.